Bit of a different episode today, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my life decisions. A little bit controversial. I've decided to get rid of my 9 to 5 to be a traditional trad wife. This is not going well one-handed. Beat it together. No, keep your hand out. So it's been a decision that I've made over a little while, and I thought I'd bring you into the reasoning of why I chose this lifestyle. Before, in the before time, I was a science teacher. And you only become a teacher for the fame, the glory and the money. So previous to this decision that I had to be a traditional wife, I was a science teacher in a secondary school, which was a really good job. If you're ever thinking about being a teacher, it's very rewarding. I worked with kids, obviously, worked with teenagers, and I worked with kids that were less deprived, like a bit deprived, and had a bit of a reputation for being a bit naughty. I got with the naughty kids. That's what I specialised in. So I'd work with all, say, the bottom sets, the kids that didn't really want to be taking science and didn't see any passion in learning, or at least not any passion for science. I loved it. The thing with working with kids with additional needs is that you get to work in classes that are like much smaller than normal. So you didn't really have that 30, 32 sort of class set up. You'd have between 10 and say 15 kids in your class, which is a game changer when it comes to these sort of kids that need extra attention. Now, saying that, although I did love my job, the issue with my job is that it is the perfect hours for, obviously for teaching, right? 8:30 till about 3:15 is when the teacher works. But that's not the hours they expect you to work. So you're contracted to work that time, but it's kind of frowned upon if you don't work until about 6. I was never at work until 6, and it was always like a funny joke between me and my department that I remember there was a new member of staff starting, and my boss is like, this is Nick, you won't see her much after 3:17. And I was like, 3:17? Did I forget something? Because I'm gone by about 3:15. But the expectation is that you stay there until late, like 4, 5, 6 on a normal day. The expectation is that you come in early. The expectation is that you work weekends. The expectation is that you work half terms. In fact, many teachers go into school in the holidays. Lots of my friends do. That kind of didn't sit well with me because I gave my 100% when I came into work. I actually got into work early. I would rock up about 7 after going to the allotment. I'd rock up about 7ish so I didn't have to rush. I would sit down, do all my data and things. But one day, I think I had to drop my dog off to the vet. So I rocked in at like 7:30, which is an hour earlier than I need to be there, okay? Which is 8:30. And my boss was like, you're late. I was like, I'm not late. He was like, you're late. You normally get here at 7. So it became like the standard that I came in at 7, though I wasn't contracted to start work until 8:30. So there's probably loads of places that expect you to do this, I understand. However, it was one of those things that every so often someone would say to me, oh Nick, will you do a lesson after school? And I used to do lessons for free after school for my kids. And then it became the expectation. You do the lessons after school for free for the kids because you love the kids and you want the kids to do well at their GCSEs. Fine. But when it became the standard, I thought to myself, you know what, I don't want to do this. I used to go away with the school for free as well. So no teacher's paid for that. Like, you just do it out your kindness of your heart, which is fine. But then as the expectations got higher and higher and higher, like do this, do this, do this, and they used to say, oh, but don't you want to do it for the kids? Don't you want to make sure they're okay? So I started retorting back to them saying, yeah, I care about the kids, but I've got kids, and I mean, it wasn't until one day that I realised that I could tell you everything about my classes. I could tell you, you know, like what they had for lunch, how they were, what they normally like, their favourite colours, you name it. And I realised one day I couldn't tell you the same about my own child. I couldn't tell you what she was learning at school. I had no idea. I just didn't have time. Oh, these onions are burning my eyeballs. It looks like I'm crying. I'm not. It's the onions. So I just didn't have time. I couldn't tell you what she was learning in school. I couldn't tell you what her favourite subject was, or in any detail. I mean, I can tell you her favourite subject's art. That's fine. But I didn't know what she was studying in art, or why it was a passion for her, or really had time to do anything at home. And I was one of those people that every Christmas and stuff, when they say, oh, what's Jasmine want for Christmas or her birthday or whatever, I'd always say, oh, she wants something to do. So like a birdhouse she can decorate, or, you know, a chemistry set, whatever. But we realised that at the weekend we were so busy trying to fit in our whole life at the weekend, growing food and with this sort of stuff. Yes, I spent time with her, but I didn't end up doing anything really that she wanted to do, like that chemistry set, which, to be honest, is still not opened on the basis that we are in the middle of a move. But you see my point. And I felt that I was giving myself so much to other people's kids, which is a blessing, and I loved it, and I know that I really made a difference in some kids' lives, which is very magical. When you feel like you're making a difference to kids who have gone through the school system and no one's cared, or they feel that no one's cared, and then suddenly they feel like they've got a teacher that sees them, that's magical. However, my kids deserve that too. So when we decided to have Andrew, of course we didn't know it was Andrew then, I agreed on the basis that I could give up work and stay at home. So I gave up my job, I gave him my notice during my maternity, which here in the UK, we actually get a year maternity leave, which I can't believe how other countries work. Some of them get obviously a lot more. A lot of them just, some don't get any. I can't. And with all of the complications with Andrew, I just knew it was the right decision. So we just gave loads of notice. My work was really good about it, and they were quite shocked, but they understood my reasoning, and they wished me all the best and said if I ever need another job, let them know, because I could have my old job back. The thing is with teaching is that you pick it up and drop it off, really. There isn't enough teachers. Teaching is a hard profession. I know what you're going to say, and you're going to say, oh, but you have 14 weeks off a year. Yes, but we need it. It is hard. I'm not going to get into it, but it is. So lots of people don't stay as teachers, especially science teachers, which I was. And to be honest, if I ever want to pick it up, I can. They're always going to want science teachers, and they're always going to want science teachers that can teach chemistry and physics. Not very many people teach chemistry and physics and can teach all three, which I did. At this season in my life, I don't see myself going back, but you never know. I never burn any bridges. Of course, having only one income after having two for a very long time is an adjustment, and projects have to be put on the back burner, and most importantly, we have to concentrate on what we grow. But it is a sacrifice that we're willing to make, although I know it's not for everyone. It is a big adjustment going from a busy job to the peace and tranquility of being a traditional trad wife or stay-at-home mum. And although some days are hard, I mean, last night I must have got about half an hour of sleep because Andrew just wouldn't go to sleep. It's so rewarding as well. I can't believe how healthy these plants are, considering it's October. Having a reduced income and the rise of all these bills does mean that we have to be a little bit more mindful of what we're spending and use what we grow. I think this dedication to the garden and to ensure that we're having nice home-cooked meals will only benefit us healthily. Jasmine is the one who struggled the most with this transition, but now she's really enjoying that most things, bread, even pasta, etc., are being made from scratch. Although it's been a learning curve, I have to say my cat pasta still leaves a lot to the imagination. We also want to take this opportunity whilst the kids are young, leap into self-sufficiency and being a little bit more responsible for what we're putting in our bodies and how it gets there. I get up whenever the kids get up in the morning, cook breakfast, make bread, which I actually really love. I love making bread. Do the school run. Do you know, I never did the school run before I was able to be off. I could just never have the time to do it because obviously the school run is at 8:30 and I'm at work at that point. Get the kids up, make sure they're eating, choosing what they eat every day, which is so important, and going to the allotment and making sure that everything there is running smoothly. I do think that having that extra time at home has brought me and the kids that much closer, which is for me very, very, very important. I'm able to chat with Jasmine in the morning. She's not a morning person, but as she's growing up, I am very much of the mind that it's like with Andrew, everything's the first Christmas, first Easter, first Halloween, and it's all really exciting and new. But with Jasmine, we're very aware that this might be the last Halloween that she actually cares about. So it's even more special because you don't know when that will end. And of course, we're not going to stunt her. If she wants to, you know, go out with her friends and all that sort of stuff, obviously that's coming. But it's nice that we can, as a family, enjoy these last few moments of having a child instead of a teenager. Even with a better work-life balance. I mean, I was getting home from work and I was so exhausted. I couldn't even face sitting and talking to people. I would just get in and then want to go to sleep. I spent most of my weekend on Saturday down the allotment tending to the allotments, and Sunday I would save time in the week because I was too tired and meal prepped, which gave me little to no time for either myself or the kids. So just like any skill set, it is a bit of a learning curve, and I know lots of people think that there's not really much to learn about homemaking. However, I feel like that's just not true. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing properly. And I think providing healthy food for my family is, well, it's always been a passion. I feel like this change is going to bring on, and already has brought on, positive changes. Like in my daughter's behaviour and in our closeness and our ability to communicate, which is super important. And definitely in my patience. Before, I was just so exhausted from work and I was going to bed. Like as soon as I got in, all I wanted to do was go to sleep. About 8 o'clock we used to go to bed. And everyone used to laugh and joke and be like, oh, you go to bed so early. And now, like I go to bed, I'm probably the last person to go to bed at night. But that's because I stay up doing stuff. I could go to bed earlier if I wanted to, I just don't. But I have the energy, I think that's the main thing. I have the energy to stay up and do bits that I want to do and bake and all of that sort of stuff. Before, I did it all on a Sunday, and that was my Sunday. Every Sunday, I'd be in the kitchen, batch cooking and whatever I was doing for the week. Saturday, I'd be over the allotment, making videos, and I'd spend lots of my evenings editing, and I just felt like my whole life was just one rush after the other. Whereas now, everything's way more relaxed. I'm not saying that I don't have things to do, which I do. Life's busy, but in a different way. So many tomatoes. But my life now is on a different schedule, which is nice. Instead of work dictating what I do in my day, I kind of have to find my own schedule, which is like really, it's nice but strange. Because normally you get told what to do and you know, right, I've got to do X, Y and Z, and now you kind of have to build your own schedule. So I get up with the kids in the morning, mostly when Andrew wakes up, because Jasmine is a sleeper. He normally gets up about 7 though, so it's not too bad. And I go to bed once I've finished all the stuff I really want to do, really. I find the nighttime stuff is my me time. And it might not be for everyone. and that's okay. But so far I find it very rewarding because I get to do, you know, all of the stuff I love as well, which is picking tomatoes, growing food, doing YouTube, editing. So I do get a lot of comments saying, oh, how do you have so much time to do all of this? And I didn't want to be disingenuous and not say that I do have more time than someone who's working full time. I think one of the main advantages of this is I was never a well person. I had a tumour, which I've spoken about multiple times. Half of you are like, yes, we know Nick. And since then, I've had a seizure disorder, which is brought on a lot by stress. And whilst I was at work, I noticed that I was going to A&E for like intensive treatment, like once a month, which is not ideal. But since I've been off, it hasn't happened at all. And I think it's the stress of work. I love work. I loved working. But it's a stressful job. Whereas I know what you're thinking. Some of you are thinking, God, I'd hate to stay at home. That'd be even more stressful. So for me, it's not. But of course, I've got a very young child and an older child, so it might be different when he's a toddler. But I'm only telling you how it is in my experience. Ugh. And that was one of the main drivers for me wanting to stop being at work and take a little bit more of a slower life. I don't know what this means in terms of the channel. I'm just going to play it by ear. I'm sure that I'll still be producing weekly content. I have a bit more time for the editing now. Another big question that I get from people when I told them I decided to be a trad wife or a stay-at-home mum, whatever you want to call it, was how do you afford it? Which is a very valid question. So luckily, me and Bob had never been really materialistic people. Because of that, we've never really had large expenditures. So we don't have credit cards or anything like that. We don't have new cars. So we were able to just cut back with what we're spending. So for example, we don't go out to eat anymore, things like that. We cook a lot from home to make sure that things are quite cheap. And we're eating what we grow, which is super important and a really big money saver. I'm really lucky because Bob's been super supportive in my decision to stay at home. And we both do think that it's what's best for our family. This change has given me way more. It's reduced my stress level. It's let me have a sync with nature. It's improved my relationship with my kids. And it's allowed us to have a little bit more time to do some more cooking from scratch, to make sure that we're eating well and we're using really good, wholesome ingredients. And I get to watch a seed turn into dinner. But I wouldn't be able to do this without the support of my family, so I'm very thankful to them. They are amazing. But it was a bit of a challenge, or a little bit of a jolt to the system, going from 2 wages to just the 1 wage, because we'd always worked and had, you know, that sort of backup, but it is something that we're working out. And I mean, there are cutbacks. I wouldn't say that it's been a struggle really to adjust to this sort of lifestyle. It is one of them things that I've literally cherished every day. I've woken up and gone, oh, thank goodness I don't have to go to work. It's so nice. And also it probably helps that my partner has a really manual job, and I see him get up in the morning at like 5 o'clock, get dressed and go out into the rain, and sometimes in the rain all day. So I am grateful that he does that for us. I definitely have the better of our situations. But if he asks, then you make sure you tell him that I suffer way more than him, all right? You've got to have that. You've got to have that in a relationship. I've got to be just that little bit more suffering, you know what I mean? But really, I just get to do my hobby all day, which is wonderful. They say, don't they, that when you have an allotment, your garden suffers. And I was like, no, it would never happen to me. But you can tell, this used to be like completely weed-free, just FYI. I do think this is a lifestyle that's worth like time to consider, and if you are thinking of it, it is very rewarding to me personally. It's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done with all my jobs, working with kids. There's just something special with your children. And I mean, I went to this really cute play at Jasmine's, yesterday, and she was just so chuffed to see us. And my partner works from home some days. That's what he's doing right now, so he's got the baby. And he was able to go as well, and normally it'd just be him if he happened to be working from home that day. So that was really special for me. You know, she's at the age where she's like, don't really care, but she cares. Because they look for you, don't they, in the crowd? This is doing so well, this flat leaf parsley. Getting absolute tons of it. I'm probably going to mix it with olive oil and pack it into an ice cube tray. It's not just been all sunshine and rainbows, though. There's been a few times where I'm like, did I make the right decision? Because financially, it always comes down to that. And it's a big difference from always being independent with your money. So before, if I wanted to buy something, of course I just went and bought it. Like, I never had to be like, oh, I need to buy this, you know. Or what I'd really do, like between me and you, is I'd buy it and then hide it, because I'd probably be like overspending a little bit. You know, like how we do. I have an issue with buying jars. That's what it really boils down to. But now it's a little bit more of like a group activity shopping, asking like, how much do we have to spend on this? You know, because it's still very new, and I'm still learning to budget from somebody else's wages. It's strange. If you guys are at home parents, you know what I'm talking about. I might try some of this as well. That'd be quite nice. So that is honestly the weirdest thing about it for me personally. I don't want you thinking that my partner says to me like, oh Nick, this is my money and all of that sort of jazz. That's not what's happening at all. But it is just something that I personally feel. But I try to mitigate that with growing as much as I can. That makes me feel a lot better. I've also always been the sort of person that uses my Christmas and birthday money to buy seeds and stuff like that. I do feel that I've started quite small and eased my way into this. I would make most things from scratch anyway, especially at the weekends. And I would slowly over time build up my skills.